lovers, the moon is a thing of beauty. But to this man it is a deadly curse. When the moon is full, this miserable wretch turns into a hairy, snarling half-man, half-beast. Prowls the night, his fangs thirsty for human blood. He is a werewolf.
Hello, welcome to the Werewolf by Night podcast, the show where we talk about Marvel's number one lycanthrope, Jack Russell, a.k.a. the Werewolf, a.k.a. the Beast, a.k.a. the Shaggy One. I'm your co-host, Matt Howell.
I'm your other co-host, Jacob Balcom.
Thanks for joining us this week, listeners. Don't be alarmed, this is part two. This is the first time we've broken up an issue into two episodes, but this was two full-length issue-length stories, so we wanted to do it properly. I wanted to.
I was torn, but I'll go along with you. I'll follow you to the end, my friend.
Yeah, and we had Brad on for the Morbius story last week, and everybody loves hearing from Brad. He's a raconteur. He's a good liver. He's a fun guy to be around. But he didn't have much good to say about the story, and I do. I have lots good to say about this story.
Me too. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to talk to you about it.
And on secondary and tertiary reads, I enjoyed it even more. So I'm already in my head, this should have been a movie, or if there was a Werewolf by Night TV series, this would have been the season finale.
Yeah, right? I can totally see that.
Featuring special effects by, Dave Allen. They couldn't afford Harryhausen, but
no.
So in case you didn't hear the last episode, folks, we were talking about Giant Size Werewolf number 4. And it had no reprints. It had no Atlas era reprints in the back. So they had two full stories, both written by Doug Munch. But this one the first one was drawn by
Virgilio Redondo.
Virgilio Redondo.
Yes.
And talk to me about this new artist. So this story is called, there's no cover to talk about, obviously. So why don't you just dive in and tell us about the artist and the title of the story?
Yeah, so the new artist is Young Montano, who is a Filipino artist. He was a member of the Tony DeZuniga studio, and he worked for Marvel in the 70s, mainly on the horror magazines. His highest profile color comics work as a penciler was Mordred the Mystic from Marvel Chillers, which I think I mentioned back in the when Bill Mantlo colored an issue, because I think he's a writer on that.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I was looking ahead at the final Giant Size issue, and in the letters column, they were saying that we teased you in issue 4 that the Scarecrow would be the backup story, the character that is now called Straw Man, because there's already a Scarecrow villain in the Marvel U and in the DCU. But they said, so he actually was in Dead of Night number 11, and then people liked him so much he got his own book, so he's not going to be here. And Mordred the Mystic is going to be our new backup guy. So that's curious that he was...
Interesting.
So maybe that was actually prepared for issue 5, and then they realized sales aren't supporting this Giant Size Werewolf thing anymore, because that Mordred story probably just went off to that Chillers issue, right?
Yeah, and I think it's the only one.
Did Munch write it?
I don't think Munch wrote it.
Okay.
If I'm correct. But yeah, that's interesting, because I think I remember when we were talking about Bill Mantlo, how I was saying that the Mordred the Mystic story had more verilies than a Lee Kirby era Thor.
Yeah, which is saying something.
It really was. So it's really funny. It's on Marvel Unlimited if anyone wants to check it out. It's really, really funny. But
is it the same story that was collected in that Darkhold Legacy or whatever that thing was, where they kind of just...
Yeah, I think it was. But back to Young Montano. We're going to see him again next Giant Size, which is next episode for us, right?
Yeah.
We're going to plow through all of the Giant Size, get them all over with. Yeah. Even though I have to say, we make fun of him a lot, but I have enjoyed aspects of every one.
Yes, but I did realize that little preview I did today that it is 58 pages or something, or 48 pages. It's
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one, not this one. This one's normal.
No, this one is normal. But Yeah, Montano as an inker did some pretty great stuff with Gil Kane and John Buscema on Savage Sword of Conan 10. I think that was probably his most high profile work. He didn't really do a ton, and there's not a lot of biographical information about him. The little blurb that I got was from that issue of Comic Book Artist 4 that had the Encyclopedia of Filipino Artists that I like to reference a lot. And yeah, just a tiny little blurb, but he's a pretty good artist. You know, he's no Alfredo Alcala or Alex Nino, but he's a serviceable artist, and I think even a little better than that. There was parts of this issue, storytelling wise, that I really enjoyed.
There's definite, it's a very distinctive style, and I totally dug it. A lot of it jumped out to me that I did like a lot, and some of it was just kind of serviceable, like you said. So I'm excited that we have another story from this person.
Me too. He's great. And yeah, the only name we're given for the letter is Marcos.
That's all you need.
And that's all you need. Just a mononym like Cher. And then Jan Cohen is colorist and Len Wein is editor. And yeah, like you said, Matt, the story is called When the Moon Dripped Blood. Can
I ask you a question before you launch into this page?
Yes.
Is there a doc about the influence of the Filipino artists? Like, you know, we watched, I think we've both seen Rumble, that doc that Taboo was in that explained like the hidden kind of unheralded or uncelebrated influence that Native Americans have had on popular music. Is there something like that for comics with Filipino artists?
Yes, but it is impossible to find. Oh. And I remember years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was I think a little Kickstarter for a film called Illustrated By, and it was a history of Filipino comic artists, which I just was freaking out about, could not wait. I think it got made. I think it maybe was on like in a film festival or two, but then like all information just ceased about it. I check for it every 6 or 7 months online. I'm about due to check again for it. But yeah, it's a full-length, like feature-length documentary, and just the little like teasers and talks that they did about it. I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this.
How does that happen? Because
I don't know.
There was this film that won a bunch of awards. It was about the 60s band from, I think, Boston, The Remains, which is one of my favorite hard rock bands. They opened for the Beatles. Like the name of the doc is something like The Band That Almost Was or something like that. You know, basically the fact that how did this band that had regional hits open for the Beatles on this leg of their American tour, just no one knows their name. No one knows who the fuck they are anymore. And I've looked for that thing. Like, I'll buy it. I'll spend $40 for a DVD. Like, you can't find it.
Yeah, I know.
Go to the website, it's just got a bunch of little awards like from different film festivals it's played in. It drives me crazy.
I know, it's really frustrating. Just like, you know, I mean, maybe rights are tangled up or whatever. I mean, especially with a music doc, I understand. Like, rights can be, you know, owned by all sorts of different warring parties. But
I mean, when the Beatles are on, you just drop out the audio and just hum something that's public domain.
Yeah.
Amazing Grace.
Camptown Races. Yeah.
Man, but don't stop looking though.
No, I'm not, because
some of these things have come up. I was telling you about that A&E biography episode about Brian Wilson that I looked for like 15 years. It just came up like in the last year, like during the COVID. Yeah, I was shocked, and it was not nearly as good as I remembered it being, but you know, it's 20 years. But and the other one that I checked for almost monthly for probably 15 years was the Garth Brooks. What's his alter ego?
Oh, the Chris Gaines.
The Chris Gaines Behind the Music VH1 episode.
Oh,
I thought I would never see that again. I went to every torrent site ever. Nobody had it. Everybody knew what I was talking about. No one had it. And then it was just up on YouTube one day. I was like, oh my God, here it is.
And it wasn't as great as you remembered.
No. But
I mean, it sounds like it should be the best thing of all time.
Yes, but it's so perfectly sanitized, right? Like he's just like, well, I want to have there's a beat, right? There's a map to every one of these stories. So what's my thing? I don't want to be addicted to anything real. Oh, I know, sex. Yes, I have a sex addiction. Because that's totally cool. All my country bros will dig that.
Wow.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, you need to eat some candies and watch that.
Oh, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Okay. That was good. That was a good aside.
Okay. But yeah, I'm with you. You know, whenever I see Filipino artists or one that I'm even not that familiar with, like Young Montano, and there's just something about their work that sets it apart from everyone else. There's some kind of thread that runs through all these artists that I don't know what I'm buying what they're selling. I love all of it.
Yeah, me too.
And I love that well, on this opening page, so there's one of those panels that you and I like, that's almost like a kind of, you know, spiritual setup for the issue. You know, we see the story opens with a panel that kind of previews what we're going to see in the story, with the werewolf fighting with an unnamed man in like a ceremonial robe. And there's a lot of narration on this. I get it. And that was Brad's criticism last week. And I totally get it. Like, he's not wrong. But I did like the I liked the one at the bottom where they're fighting like in a pool, and you see their reflections. And that says, "But even so, I was soon to learn that there are far worse things in this world than being transformed into a wolfishly snarling ball of fury, that even greater horrors stalked the night, such as those which appeared when the moon dripped blood." And I don't remember if we've gotten narration that goes into the issue title before. That's kind of cool. It's a horror movie kind of cool thing.
So this panel, which goes all along the left side of the page, is one of my favorite ones in this whole thing. I love this stuff because this is weird tales, Lovecraft, blah, blah. But this one, like, you know, before we've had them be like kaiju, like this, when there's like this metaphorical battle going on, that's a preview of what's coming up. This one is something that doesn't really happen because it's them fighting in a pool of water, but the reflections reflect their true natures. So the beast is Jack, and the guy, the cult member, is this hideous Cthulhu weird thing with tentacles coming off of his face and tentacles coming off his chest and wrapping Jack's chest and his arms up. That's so fucking cool. I was 100% in on this first panel.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. It's such a cool device that they use right off in that first panel. And so, our other two panels are just, two medium panels on the side. And it shows us that, good old Clary Winter arrives unannounced at the Russell compound looking for Jack. And I like that it describes her. Clary's the bubbly, ebullient type, always excited about something, but vestiges of sleep and the impending moon prevented me from sharing her enthusiasm. Yeah, he's not excited at all that she's there.
No. And I love that bottom panel of him just kind of looking downward, forlorn, and the art of the humans here on this right side of the page is great. And Montano does this kind of elfish quality to women in here where they look almost like pixies. It's very interesting.
Oh no, it's very unique.
Yeah. And so we find out again, this is Munch's second time mentioning that they're in Westwood, which is, we always said, when it was a Plug Conway show, it was right on Malibu, but this is like another house or something like that that's closer to the middle of stuff.
Yeah, I think we've tracked 4 residences.
Yeah,
that the Russell family has.
And he used Lambent again in that first panel, which Tim was so fond of, and I am too. So I love to see his SAT scores.
Yeah.
So on the next page, we get a little bit of detail from her why she's there. So she looked up the address in the phone book, and she came by to say that Buck is giving her a lift to Mallet Studios. And, Jack's like, whoa, isn't Buck a little old for you? And she's like, no, it's not like that. You remember Brad Dangle, the stunt coordinator? Well, he's going to be making a film, and he's a huge fan of Buck's writing for magazines and whatnot. So he's buying a script that Buck's had sitting around gathering dust. So he's going to go out and make a movie, and I'm going to be in it. And so we get this little flashback where she's like, my producer, Mr. Gabriel, who I'd forgotten him from back in the Vampires on the Moon story.
That's right.
But he says, sorry, Mr. I guess Buck had tried to sell this before. And Mr. Peter Gabriel, Mr. Gabriel says, sorry, Mr. Cowan, but my films are of a decidedly different nature than what you propose in this script. I suggest you approach someone who specializes in horror films. So the ongoing joke that this is not the type of thing she usually makes. Brad sees him and he's like, oh my God, are you Buck Cowan? I love your writing. I've read all your stuff. And he buys it sight unseen. He buys a script. Just like, nope, I love your magazine articles so much. I'm going to buy your script. He says basically like, hey, Melody, how'd you like to be my leading lady? And she's jacked because apparently whatever she does is so demeaning and horrifying that she would love to be anything legitimate that her parents could see.
Yeah, I mean, even in the in Len's editorial aside in that first panel, he says Clary Winters, whose stage name is Melody Toon, is employed at Mallet Studios as an actress of sorts. So yeah, they get a lot of they get a lot of those entendres in right off the bat here.
But solid art. I really like the way that he draws like Buck. Like that's how Buck should look to me. Like sometimes Perlin doesn't do Buck. He does Buck more of like an action figure, 70s action figure. And I think this guy looks like a guy that he's lived some, he's loved, he's lost.
Yeah, he needs to look lived in.
He's put V8 into an empty vodka, a half gallon, and shook it around the morning just to wash his mouth out with something, get the cat shit out of his mouth.
Why is that Muppet made of leather?
You don't do that when I'm drinking.
I'm sorry.
That's not cool.
But yeah, you're right. I love how Montano draws Clary. It's so strange and different. Like, yeah, it's total ElfQuest for any of the women we see in this issue. And she's got some great clothes too. She's wearing like this kind of mustard yellow mini dress. Really cool.
A mallet, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. And then, yeah, so I like it on the next page. Clary says that Mr. Wrangle, Brad Wrangle, still was interested in hiring Jack as a stuntman.
I thought it was Dangle.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were better. I thought you were making a joke, and I was just like, I'm gonna let that slide. I'm like, it's serviceable.
No, I think one of the guys in the '60s band, the Wailers, is named Rich Dangle, and so I got that mixed up in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, let's not scratch beneath the surface on that one. But yeah, I love when Clary says, she's like, well, he wants you to double for the leading man in this picture. We leave for location work in 3 hours, so make up your mind fast, handsome. And now like Jack is actually kind of being smart here. He's like, Brad's going to start filming this afternoon without even reading the script. And like, she's like, look, Jack, I admit this isn't the most professional project in the world. He said, yeah, it won't be much more than a drive-in B flick, but it is a distinct cut above the grindhouse quickies I've been making until now. So that's the closest we've gotten to a description of the actual films that she make. What's a grindhouse quickie? Can you think of a title that we would know that you would describe that as?
I would think that would be something like those Doris Wishman films or like a Herschel Gordon Lewis thing.
Like a stag film?
Maybe not. But I mean, like, she basically is saying, like, this is not what you optimists are thinking it is. She's like, it's not like a B movie, like drive-in thing. Like, so, oh, okay. Because that's like they would say, we have a feature. Here's this budget. We need a second movie, right? People leave after the first one. We don't give a shit, but we have to have a double feature. It's not that. This is below that. So this is like Suburban Roulette. I'm trying to think of what like the early 60s would be like nudist camp stuff.
Yeah.
So what would the early 70s be? Like, it's just, I mean, that's just porn, man. Like
pretty like, right. I mean,
porn just became acceptable after Behind the Green Door and Deep Throat and, right. I mean, like that became a thing where it's like, no, we got a sitter. We're going in, we're going to have dinner, and then we're going to see this new adult film. Like it was a thing in the 70s.
Yeah, when did Behind the Green Door come out? Was that 75?
60, was it?
Or no,
I thought it was like 69 or...
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably like, I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I keep trying to come up with a non-porn explanation for her movies, but let's be sex positive and just be like, it's totally fine.
My knowledge of this area is mostly 60s, from that like nudie cutie, like let's just go to a nudist colony and film people playing tennis. Like they're hideous. Like they're not, models. They're just human beings. So no one wants to see that, but people would see it. And then it evolves through the late 60s, but I don't know the 70s. I can only think it's porn.
Okay. Yeah. Let's just not dance around it anymore.
Okay. It was a good dance though.
It was a fun dance. So yeah, Jack is like, oh, okay, I guess so, Clary. And she's like, great, we'll have a ball, Jack. You'll see. Meet us at the studio lot C by noon and be ready to roll, superstar. And he's kind of getting into it. Like, he was pretty down when she arrived, but now he's smiling. He's like, so long, Clary. And don't blind yourself with visions of those bright marquee lights. So he's getting some cracks in now. He's joshing her.
Just to be clear, and I understand that some stuff's made quickly, even porn, I imagine. But like, first of all, there's a script. So the script was sold this AM. She's come by to wake Jack up around noonish and saying, hey, we're driving out 4 hours and we're shooting while there's still light today. Yeah. That's weird.
No, it's weird. And I think this shows Jack's youthful attitudes, because he's like, all right, it's weird, but I'm in. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a full moon tonight, but fuck it, let's go.
Yeah. And, like the first couple panels, I was like, okay, this is where he needs the equivalent of Spidey sense. But then he actually does go, wait a minute.
He does, yeah.
So he redeemed himself a little bit there. On the next page, they're out there. They're all kind of setting up. And Buck's like, hey, man, isn't this great? Like, I sold a moth-eaten script, and now I get to come out here and watch it get filmed and write a story about it. So I'm getting paid coming and going. And, Jack's like, yeah, congratulations, And then Buck kind of leans in. He's like, hey, man, I checked my calendar. Tonight's a full moon. Are you concerned at all about this? And Jack's like, well, right here in the mountains, we'll bang out a couple shots here right before at magic hour. And I'm sure I can skitter away as the sun goes down and turn into a werewolf safely away from everybody.
Fucking moron.
So, so they head out. Sorry, they had not left Mallet Studios. They're packing up when that happened. I lied. So they leave and they're all heading out. And Brad goes, hey, I got a chance to read that script I bought from you and that we're driving out to make right now. And I like it, I was going to make a Western, which I thought this was, but he's like, but, you turn it into a horror film and that's cool. And I like how, there's this guy, he's the hero, but then he turns into the monster in the end. And even though Buck wrote this script before he met Jack, there's this kind of solemn, like, oh, sorry, buddy, like, foot and mouth kind of thing. This very, very forlorn look of Buck, like,
I know,
Charlie Brown kind of. It's very sweet.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of sweet. That bottom narration is Buck flicked a guilty glance in my direction, and I could tell he was biting his tongue. But what the hey? He'd written his twist ending years before he'd met me. So Jack gives him a pass.
And the real clincher is here to let Buck off the hook is that Jack doesn't give a shit about being a werewolf.
No, he does not.
It's only an issue when it comes up with his little sister. Otherwise, he's like, oh, right, I should do something about that.
Oh, shit, I forgot. But I like that Buck knows. Like, it is on his calendar. Mm-hmm. He has a men's life calendar that has, with a big X on the day with the full moon.
Yep.
So yeah, I loved so this setup page kind of cracked me up in a way, and I didn't quite know what was going on. So the setup to me was very Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, totally.
Like this is the most Scooby-Doo Werewolf by Night has ever been. So the gang arrives at the town of Serenity Springs, and Clary, kind of calls it a ghost town. But I love Buck. He's just like, yeah, I don't see a restaurant anywhere. Just when I'm getting a caffeine fit. So, of course, Buck, hard-nosed reporter, writer, he just drinks like a Herculean amount of coffee.
Yep, by the pot.
By the pot.
Fuck
full.
Cups.
And so there's this guy that's walking past, and Buck's like, excuse me, can you tell us where to get a cup of coffee around here? And the guy's just looking at him, and it's just with these dead eyes. Buck's like, I said, can you direct us to a restaurant, like a diner or coffee shop? And the guy's like, no restaurants here, not anymore. No need for restaurants. And just walks away all zombified. And Buck's still trying to, like, give him the benefit of the doubt. He's like, what do you mean there's no need? Don't you eat around here? The narration's like, but the man kept walking as though he'd already forgotten that Buck even existed. But then so it says Buck didn't have much of a chance to grumble, though, because a guy runs out of the hotel and is like, hey, Brad, there's no one in the hotel, not even a desk clerk, and the lights don't work there. There's no electricity. And so, yeah, I'm seeing this setup as like, old man Jenkins is behind this, and it's very Scooby-Doo. But it takes a really cool turn just when you think it's going to be, kind of a pat formulaic tale. It takes a turn.
So we cut to, they're trying to take advantage of this last little bit of light because they're being very efficient with this film. So like, hey, we got this set, the stunt setup we can do out here. And they go out there and like, okay, so Jake, here's what we need you to do. And I was like, Jake? He calls him Jake twice.
Yeah. Why
does he know his name's Jacob? Nobody calls him Jake.
No, it's weird.
Okay. So at any rate, there's the setup is there's a cliff and a tree and a rope tied to it. So they want Jack to run up to the cliff's edge, swing out a rope, pretend to kick an extra in the face, and then swing out, and then they're going to shoot some blanks at him. And then in the editing room, they'll cut and show the guy falling over the edge or something like that. So, by the way, the guy setting up the stunt is Jimmy, which I'm sure Jack had some kind of at least secondary PTSD from Jimmy and Atlas. And
yeah, definitely.
Like, Jimmy's doing the stunt. Jimmy's doing the stunt. He swings out to do this thing. The guy shoots the gun, but instead of blanks, there's an actual cartridge in the gun, and it shoots his rope. So he's swinging it over a cliff, and his rope is gone.
Yeah, and so I think this whole page is one of the most egregious examples of words per panel, just actually crowding the figures in the panel out.
Yep. No, it's the worst example of that in the entire issue for sure.
Yeah, it's
maybe the run.
Maybe the run, honestly. like I thought the last story had a lot of speech balloons and narration, but no, this one is way out there. But yeah, so this next page, the bullet severs the rope and sends Jack, over this gorge, and he falls down to this river below. But this was also one that, there's a passable amount of narration in this, but
it didn't need any of it.
It didn't need any of it. Like this should be a wordless page. Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous the way that the story progresses. Like this is what comics were made for. This is a visual medium. So yeah, it's gorgeous. The first panel is the rope severing. He falls in. There's different angles. Like it's so cool. Mm-hmm. And it shows, Jack basically as this fucking superhero. I feel like I'm always asking, like, how far did that guy fall? I feel like I've asked that about 10 times, but he fell a long ways. Like, this is a long drop down into this river.
It's a canyon.
It's a fucking canyon. And so, yeah, Jack lands in the water, but he's just like, nope, no problem, and just starts swimming for the shore. I mean, yeah, it tuckered him out for sure, but I really loved this page.
Yes, I was a huge fan of this page. I wanted to Photoshop out all of the panel boxes, all the dialogue boxes there. It doesn't need it. It's gorgeous. And the next page is pretty much the same as well. We see Jack climbing out of the river. He's exhausted because he's fought the current to get out. He's been swept down the river quite a ways. He thinks it's probably like 3/4 of a mile or something like that. He climbs out and just collapses and passes out. And then he wakes up and he's a little unsteady. He feels a strange, he says, like, lights flicked back on inside my skull. It was deepest night, or at least as deep as night can get, when it's crowned with the light of the full moon. And he starts to get up on his knees. He's kind of shaking. And the bottom 3 panels are a nice transformation that I really like. It says, familiar agony shredded my guts as the dark and malevolent forces of lycanthropy sent shooting fire through my veins and changed me, transformed me into a hideous man-beast known as... And these panels here, the middle one, there's been some really good middle panels lately that I think Plug kind of chose not to do, but this is definitely a 3-stage transformation. Just instead of drawing vertical lines indicating fur growing on his face, he's actually, his nose is curling up and getting broader. Like, it's really cool. And I love the way that Montano does the beast in the final panel. He looks actually scary.
He looks scary, and it's almost a classic, beast that we've seen him look that way before. But yeah, you're right. I made notes of this at numerous points in this that the beast, the werewolf, does not have a pompadour again.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm since you pointed that out last time, I'm really loving when it actually looks like he has animal fur on his head more than a Brill Cream pompadour. But yeah, that middle panel is fucking freaky. It is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you pointed out on a previous episode that it's more effective when the transformations look painful, when they look really fucking painful. Like we gravitate towards those as good transformation sequences.
Yeah. And just like the heavy brows on the beast and the eyes with the yellow and the red irises. It's just a very different take on him, and I love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. And the next page is also one that I really loved. So yeah, the narration said, turned me into a hideous man beast known as Werewolf. And so it's such a cool first panel as well on a great page. It's the beast crouched on the ground, no pompadour. And yeah, he just looks great. It says, "First night, and the monster ripped Jack Russell's shirt from its bristling back. The change was complete. I was no longer human. And the beast which now possessed me wanted nothing but freedom."
I love that in that first panel, he's actually howling at the moon, which we don't get very much.
You're right. We don't. No, it was... Yeah, and that panel as well, like he looks like he's still in pain. Mm-hmm. Like the howl at the moon is in pain. It's very effective.
It's like erupting out of him.
It is. It's so cool. And so, yeah, and I actually kind of laughed at that second panel. It was freedom to roam the forests with lupine abandon. And so, okay, let's just do that right now. Taking our drink. Okay. It's in the forest. But this one took a brutal turn too, because I don't know if we've ever seen him. So he spies a deer, which is, the narration has told us in many issues, this is his favorite thing on earth to do is to hunt and kill a deer. And so, yeah, that second panel, he's almost, I know he's like loping away, but his arms are like stretched out. It looks like he's like, yay, the forest.
It looks more like he's doing like a cliche, like Abbott and Costello Frankenstein, like just arms completely raised above his head, like roar.
He is, but then he gets down to business, and he sees a deer. It says, "Freedom to exercise the glory of sheer physical power and the ghastly freedom to kill." So that bottom panel, which I love the depiction of his hair again. So he takes this deer by surprise. The deer's just like, holy fucking shit. It's a great deer reaction face.
It is the best one I've ever seen.
It's the best one I've ever seen. And so, but this one, I'm sure you noticed this too. So this one brought up something pretty cool. So in the last panel, we see him, just go right for this fucking deer's throat. And the final narration box says, "The werewolf reveled in it, triumphed in the atavistic thrill of bloodletting, and Jack Russell had absolutely no control over what was happening. In the morning, I would be sick." And so this made me think, so the werewolf is basically going to eat this deer and drink its blood. And so in the morning when he turns back, so Jack just still has a stomach full of crazy deer meat and entrails and probably a gallon of blood.
Isn't that gross?
Which, would make a normal human boy kind of sick. But yeah, I don't know why that stuck with me. It's just like, oh my God, yeah, of course he's sick.
Yeah, that made me totally think of when we moved out here to the suburbs from Portland proper, there were coyotes. And so, our cat, Jim Jom, got loose because he used to be an outdoor cat in our old place. Like everybody knew him. He'd walk around the park, play with everybody. He came out here and got chased by coyotes like the first month, and he was gone for like a month, and we thought he was dead, and we put up this money and all this stuff, and ended up reading all the stuff on Nextdoor. It's saying like, the coyotes, like they will encircle them as a pack, like a cat. And I guess like their death is really, really cruel. Like they go for their soft underbelly. So they'll tear their entrails out so that they can hunt these things, and that they're still alive, but their guts are spilling out, and they're playing with them and toying with them and like eating at them while they're running. Like it's really a gnarly, terrible death for your cat. So like,
don't let your cats out.
Yeah. So they're pretty nasty. So I couldn't help but think of that, right? Like You know, he just ate a bunch of entrails and then, like you're saying, like just went at the underbelly of this deer and ate entrails and drank a bunch of blood up. And yeah, I think, you know, Jack's physically ill as well as spiritually ill in the morning, like remembering it.
Yeah.
I'm sure both are equally violating.
Yeah, God, it's horrifying.
So in the next page, they're looking around for Jack, and Clary said, "Hey, Buck, have you found him yet?" And he's like, "No." And actually, everyone else is missing. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, all the buildings are empty. And the film crew has disappeared. They have no idea what's going on." And so like, well, maybe they formed a search party. And Buck's like, "Yeah, I doubt it, you know." And then they hear a guy go, "Ah!" And Buck says, "Come on, Clary. Those sounds came from behind the hotel. It looks like Frank." And they find this guy, Frank, laying down on his side. And Frank was the guy who fired the gun that had the supposed blank in it.
Oh, okay. I didn't put that together, but that makes a lot of sense. No, this page is cool. And I have to comment on the coloring of Clary's hair in that fourth panel.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that a couple of pages ago when they were at Mallet collecting all their gear and like getting ready to go. Like her hair is fucking cool looking.
It's so cool looking. Like someone today would pay like $500 at a salon to get that made. Like her hair is kind of shaggy and cool, but it's also multicolored.
It's
like
got the highlights.
Yeah, it has like these awesome orange highlights in the red. Like, it's so cool. And her makeup is so cool. Like, no, I mean, I love Clary. I'm a Melody Tune fan for sure.
Yeah, I know you are.
I've seen all her movies.
You ruined all my magazines.
Yeah. So I got to go to the next page because this is where
bananas.
Shit goes totally bananas. So Frank is dying basically, and he says, "You know, tried to stop at the sacrifice." And Buck says, "What sacrifice? What happened to Jack?" And Frank then tells him, "We were wrong. Never should have let them change us. You must get away. Get help." And then he dies, and Buck's like, "Stop who, man? Who must we stop?" And then Clary's like, "Buck, is he dead?" And he says, "I'm afraid he is, Clary. I can try massaging his heart, but I don't think it's." So yeah, Buck is, maybe going to try and start CPR. But this is where it changed from when I was like, okay, this is just a Scooby-Doo episode. But then we get fucking like alien H.P. Lovecraft, because as he tears open Frank's shirt, there's like this four-fingered claw like protruding out from his chest, but still under the skin. And it's just fucking horrifying. Like, what did this remind you of most?
I mean, you're spot on with the Lovecraft and all that, but like it's very Cronenberg. It reminded me of like Videodrome or something. It looks like fingers coming out of the flesh, but they have like this complexion of like cottage cheese. Like, so it's like tentacles forming from his sternum and starting to come writhing out, poking. It's so fucking weird. I absolutely love it.
I loved it too. And this made me just step back when I'm reading the story, because I'm like, oh, this is funny, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was just like,
same.
And this is shit got real.
Yeah. And as he's dying, he was passing off a note to Buck that says, here, take this to stop them before sacrifice. And so there's a note, which is important.
That is important.
But yes, we easy to forget with the horrifying flesh tentacles coming out of the guy's chest. So, Clary's like in a Lovecraft role playing game, this is where like you'd roll to see how many sanity points you lost, and like you have like a sanity counter. She's like, Buck, what's happening? Are we going mad? Like, I don't know, Clary, but we've got to find a phone. And they realize there's no phones, there's no electricity. And so they're like, well, we can't leave Jack here, like we can't just steal one of these trucks and get back to town. We got to find Jack. And he's like, wait a minute, there's that piece of paper. It's right here in my pocket. And they pull it out and look at it. And he's like, damn it, it's too dark. There's no electricity. He can't read it. And then thwack, they both get blackjacks in the back of the head, Swack and Cruck. And they are out like lights. And then we just see this 3-panel wordless thing where you see the bottoms of their shoes. They're being picked up and the notes in the foreground, and they're being dragged away as the note from the dying cultist is still there. See,
those bottom 3 panels, I mean, that could be in like an Alan Moore Swamp Thing.
Totally.
Like, it's just,
totally.
It's like, okay, you have 3 panels to show a note and 2 people getting dragged away, but make it horrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that did it. That checks all the boxes.
All Buck could make out was it says when the moon, and then they're knocked out.
I do love the sound effects of swak and crook.
Yeah.
So the next page we switch back to the forest. We find the beast. He's loping off kind of towards a cave. The narration on the second panel is I think it's worth reading. It says, I tried desperately to understand the strange relationship between Jack Russell's intellect and the werewolf's body. Sometimes it's as though I'm almost aware of what's happening, but completely out of control. And other times it's like being semi-unconscious, experiencing the werewolf's activities through the haze of a drugged nightmare. And you and I have questioned this a lot before. It's just like, where is Jack? I mean, we know he's taking a back seat, but his consciousness is there at some point. So I feel like Doug is really bringing some weird philosophical ideas to the giant size titles.
Yep.
That he doesn't in the main title.
Yeah. And we talked about that before, right? With the other one, it's like, why are you revealing this cool thing in a giant size story? It's disposable.
It really makes me think that editorial oversight on the giant sizes was basically nothing.
Yeah.
He sees this cave. He goes into the cave. And this was the next panel that I was just like, what the fuck? So he finds this skeleton with like the remnants or bones of like tentacles coming out of its chest. And I do love how, we got the first reveal with the 4 little claws coming up out of the chest. And now we see this bone, the skeleton with these like bone tentacles coming up. I like how this is obviously like a Lovecraft monster, but it's kind of slowly being revealed, which I think is great storytelling.
No, he's ratcheting up the horror, right? I mean,
It is.
So this is the next stage. This person died, and they were more fully formed than that cultist who just died was. So now you see what the next stage is.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And then in that final panel, we have Jack back in his human form, like finally making his way out of the forest. And it's already noon. Like, no matter if he's a werewolf or just rich kid, he does not get up before noon.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him up.
Yeah, so he finds a cave, and I don't know, maybe I just read too much of like the Jungian stuff and like too much Greek myth stuff, but like that to me, I mean, it's this giant mountain and it's this cave, and it looks to me like kind of this vaginal weird thing. Like, what's that ancient god, where Cthulhu's name comes from? Like Chthon, which is like chthonic cults that were all about like these caves that were like going into the earth, and it was all about this like birth womb thing, and the snake all came from like Mother Earth and Gaia and all this weird stuff. Like, I immediately think of that when I see stuff like this. The way they made a point of saying it's an elevated cave bored into its side, so it's like it just looks like a weird like human-y, like it's even making the earth seem like it's got living organic, not mammal, but like just living aspects to it.
Totally. And I think the coloring really draws attention to that, because the outer ring around the cave,
the vulva,
the vulva, thank you, is colored yellow. And it's just, it's really strange. Like, it's a strange looking cave opening. Like, if you just read in the instructions on what to draw, it just was like cave opening. This is not what I would expect any human being to do.
Yep. One thing that I felt from this page was, I mentioned this several episodes ago, but like that sometimes artists will draw Jack with this like ruffle on the top of his pants. Mm-hmm. And I realized when he transformed this time that it's his shirt that is tucked into his pants that is shredded, but no one colors it properly. No, they don't. They just color it green. I noticed that too. So that should be white. Yeah, that should definitely be white. But then it would look like a weird jester, like a ruffle or something. Yeah, I think if there's one mistake that Montano made in this, it's in the way that he did the shirt tatters. I think that just, kind of logistically, that doesn't work from an art standpoint. Yeah, if they were a little smaller and then colored white, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah. But no one's done that yet. But so, I love this alien skeleton. I'm a big body horror guy. So anytime you do anything like this where someone is evolving or force evolving or changing into something inhuman physically, I find that horribly upsetting. So I'm 100% in. So Jack makes it back to, was it Serenity Lane?
Yeah. Yes. Let's just say that.
No, I've dried out there. That's not that. What's it called? Serenity Springs?
Serenity Springs is what it's called.
He makes it back there. He sees the Mallet Studio trucks, but there's nobody there. There's nobody in the hotel. He's looking around, and then he finds that note that Buck and Clary dropped when they got knocked out. And he picks it up, and it says, "When the moon drips blood, the demons of darkness and death shall rule the earth. We need fear nothing save ourselves, for only when evil devours evil will the earth tremble and devour us all." And Jack's comment mentally is, "Curiouser and curiouser." I love. And then the Lovecraftian stuff gets ramped up again. In the next panel, it says, "And even more curious when I discovered the trails of slime leading out through the hotel doorway. And Jack's tripping out on this gross green ectoplasm on the ground." So now it's even got a tactile element to it. So you have the visual and the physical of like these tentacles coming out. And now these are things that exude slime like slugs when they exhibit themselves what they are. And then it says, "In the abrupt memory of the skeleton discovered by the werewolf during the previous night." So Jack remembers, like through a drug haze, like, oh shit, there was a skeleton with weird tentacles, like bone tentacles coming out of it.
Yeah, you're right. I think I agree with you. This would be something that in a 70s Werewolf by Night TV show, this would be a pretty good pilot.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good season finale. And I say, fuck cliffhangers. We don't need to do that shit. That's fucking grade school shit. This would be the end of the season where you'd be talking about it all summer because it ruled so hard. Not, is he dead? Did he get shot? Is he in the shower? Blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
Yeah.
This is like, no, that fucking ruled.
Yeah, no, that's
the way that when I was a kid, V was on. And when on the bus to school, everyone talked about the last episode of V every night. Then she ate a rat. Yeah, she ate a rat. Of course. Yeah, no, that was definitely school bus conversations had by anyone from our generation. And this would be that. This would be a pilot, sure, but I think we've already pulled them in with our 23 episodes of Brilliance right now. This would be a double length chiller season blowout. Yeah, and I mean, I guess just mention it at any point in this issue, I instantly bristle when I see Clary because I'm just like, Topaz, where's Topaz? And that's my only, I miss Topaz when she's not there. But also, I don't know how she would fit into this story. And it makes me think, because at first I thought maybe this was an inventory story, or maybe this was something that if it hadn't been published, we would have read in Marvel. Someone describing it. Yeah, or like in Marvel Fanfare or something, right. And but no, I actually think this was good call. I think it was a good call, and I'm never going to say that again for an issue where Topaz doesn't make an appearance. But can I tell you what my way around that? I thought of this as well. Okay. The way to ramp up the power of this other Earth, whatever old ancient evil, is Topaz essentially becomes a medium for it, and the entity or whatever speaks through it. So she's not malevolent, but she's just essentially like a radio that this thing is like menacing Jack with or something like that during this final sequence here. Like just, she becomes a voice box. So she's just a puppet. That would be even creepier. That would have been creepier. Yeah, you're right. No, that's a good call. Thank you. So yeah, the next page, Jack follows the slime trail and he finds this enormous cave where it says, straight to the top of a mountain I remembered from the werewolf's nocturnal escapade. So this is the same cave, right? Yeah, it has a secondary hole on the top. That's right. So it says the side of that mountain wasn't the only place a hole had been bored. There was a vertical cave mouth as well as the traditional horizontal one. I had to kind of go and imagine that in my mind, kind of work through that. It says, I peered down through it, but before I could yelp in shock, the back of my skull caved in. So before he gets a thrack and gets knocked out, he basically looks down and sees, well, he can probably tell from that distance that it's Buck and Clary, like tied to posts by their feet and hanging down over yet another, pit or cave. He gets knocked out. And it says, when I came to, I was in the company of friends and voices from off stage. And so, yeah, he's just tied up as well. And I feel like I have to read this speech. You have to. Yeah, this is a big speech. So he hears, like he says, from off stage.
Soon the moon will pass into conjunction with the pit of our father, and then its life-giving rays will unite with the blood of three to nourish the father of all life and all evil, the ancient God who has stalked the stars before earth existed, and who shall grant us the power to rule at his side. So we have this really great, villain monologuing speech. And I laughed out loud when I read the final narration, because it just simply says, it was Brad and the rest of the film crew. They were nuts.
And they are.
And they are, but it's quite understated for Mr. Doug Munch.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, if you had any doubts that this was kind of Lovecraft influence, the ancient God who stalked the stars before Earth existed is a very big tip-off that this is Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Eldritch horrors that long predate us.
Mm-hmm.
Brad continues, now, my brothers, the moon begins to enter the cave. So there's this event happening where the hole in the top of the volcano-ish cave, when the moon comes into it, it shines down onto the victims who are hanging upside down over a pit by their feet. And the plan is to slit their throats. And at the bottom of the pit is this beast that they serve, their god. And so they want to feed it moonlight and blood at the same time. And that is what makes it powerful. It gives it life. So the blade goes to Clary's throat. And Brad says, and the moment swiftly approaches when it will shine directly into the pit. And Jack thinks it was already shining on me more than enough. And you see in the foreground, the three victims hanging upside down. And he's already fully, not fully, but half werewolf. So no one's noticed, but he's been sprouting fur and fangs.
Yeah.
As Brad's ranting about slitting Clary's throat once the moonlight hits her perfectly. And then we get a nice shot of the beast looking up through the hole in the top of the mountain at the moon. And Brad says, the moment is here, my brothers. And then the narration says, second night, the werewolf concurred.
Also made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, that was rad. And then so he uses his claws or something, it's not clear, but he slashes his ropes and jumps out and starts growling. And it says, and voiced his agreement in a snarl of raw-throated rage as he snapped his bonds in a single burst of frenzy. And Brad looks up, what? And then he starts directing his followers. Stop him. He must not prevent the moon from dripping blood. Our father hungers. Stop him. And so they all start rushing towards him. And the first guy that approaches the beast has some of those weird tentacles growing out of his chest. You can just barely see a hint of them. And the beast just slashes at him. Great depiction of the beast in that last panel. Just the angles and the contours are just so cool and beastish. And I love the contour, the inking on the fur.
Yeah, the inking on the fur is great. His ears, for some reason, I was really drawn to how they're depicted in this.
Yep.
So this page is great, and that panel of that one that says second night, the werewolf concurred. Just the angle and the way the moon is, I'm definitely putting that up on our feed because it's fucking gorgeous. And I think the beast, his claws actually seem razor sharp in this issue, which they don't all the time. He'll slash at some bar guy's face. And I know this is a code approved comic, so they can't, show the deep gashes that are left behind. But, the werewolf doesn't get to cut a lot of stuff, but he easily cuts the bonds, slashes at this guy. And we see on the next page. So, but I took that to be, is that Brad? Is that Brad Wrangle?
No, and the only tip-off, I did the same thing when I first read this. You have to look for a mustache.
Okay, that's right.
And this guy's hair is parted the opposite direction.
Okay.
But I got confused as well.
So on the next page it says, but even he was slightly startled as slimy tentacles burst from the slashed robe front, snake towards him. So these guys are yelling at him. And I like the beast, the tentacles are coming for him. And he just cuts them off. He just slashes them. And they're just cut off from this guy's chest. It looks like there's maybe 6 or 8 inch stumps left behind. And then, so that must be Brad in the background that's yelling, we must not fail him now. We must not allow the moon to pass from the pit.
And I love in that panel you just were reading from that as he's slashing away at that dude in the foreground, like these tentacles that are colored brown, which I, to expect like green or gray, but they're brown. They look like giant spiders' legs. Like they're just gross. And then like he's just slashed 4 of them off at once and all just falling in unison. It's so rad.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The sharpness of his claws really come through in this issue. And I don't notice that a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, the next panel narration says, and so he began, I do love this. So he's like, okay, these guys are coming at me. They have tentacles that come out of their chest. I'm just going to pick each one of them up and throw them. So he just basically is just doing these wrestling moves. It says, and so he began tossing the hideous creatures away from him as soon as they came within range. But then it says, one such discarded foe slammed into the top of Buck's stake, snapped it, and then hurtled down into the pit. So the guy falls down into the pit saying, yeah, but we see Buck. So it says Buck remained unconscious, dangling over the abyss, but he's dangling like his neck is the only thing he's holding on with. Like it's really disconcerting, the angle that he is hanging on by.
Yeah, like his shoulders and his like chest are like the one at the lip of the pit, and his legs are hanging down, and he's barely even conscious. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. And I don't know if this is technically a body slam, but I think he's damn near body slamming.
That's what I was thinking. Let's drink.
I love this part. And I got to tell you, I've already started cooking up a little something for our stories.
Oh, yeah?
To celebrate this, yeah. I love
excited.
this. This is very like Big Trouble in Little China.
It totally is.
So on the next page, it says, until the tentacled thing hit the bottom of the pit and the whole cave went into a minor tremor. So a cult figure went down and landed at the god. And then the cave just starts shaking like an avalanche because the god is the creature has been, woken. And Brad's in the foreground holding this ceremonial knife. And he says, no, our father has been awakened. He will be furious. He will demand the blood due him. And the tremor keeps getting bigger and bigger. Rocks are starting to fall. And Buck squirms his way from the edge and he starts working, freeing himself. And then in the next panel, which is one of my favorite moments, we see the beast chomping on some dude's tentacles coming out of his chest, just full on like drunken dude eating a cheeseburger, drunken David Hasselhoff eating a cheeseburger on the hotel floor.
He's kind of doing it nonchalantly almost.
It says Jack Russell would have been revulsed beyond words at what the werewolf did that night. But to the beast, savagery was a way of life and to be played to the gory hilt. I love that panel. Please include that in the feed.
Oh, I absolutely will.
So Buck has gone to free Clary, who's still not awake yet. She's still knocked out. The collapse of the cave is getting bigger and bigger. Buck's carrying Clary off. Brad's coming after them, saying, with tentacles swirling around in front of him, saying, no, the sacrifices have freed themselves. They must not escape. And it says the thing that was once Brad Wrangle was foaming at the mouth by this time. And like I said before, I had to say one thing for him. He was determined. And so he's looking towards Buck and Clary and saying, stop, your blood must feed the father of all worlds. And Buck's looking back at him like, Jesus fucking Christ.
So it's at this point that if this story was in black and white, this page could be in a Skywald magazine.
I was going to save this till the end. This is what, like when I was asking you guys idly, like, what do you think Werewolf by Night would have been as a Curtis magazine instead of a giant size? Like, this is what I'm talking about. This would be like the baseline.
Yeah. Like
it would be this dark, this like Lovecraftian all the time.
Yeah. It's just, to think of what if, but I think this is as close as it's going to get. I mean, I haven't read or reread too much of the rest of the run of the main title, but I can't imagine it's this like horrific and disturbing.
Not this disturbing. There's some more stuff coming up, but there is nothing this out there. I don't remember.
Well, because then, I mean, my God, the next page. So the next page, it says, and then the pit thing got hungry, just as Brad said it would. So a lot of times when the villain is monologuing, you're just like, yeah, whatever. It needs to feed. And then you're like, holy fucking shit, this thing that says, I don't know, that it looks as big as a small building, like just erupts out of the pit. Yeah, it's like 4 pink tentacles with a mouth in the middle of them. Like,
yeah.
It is so horrifying. And it basically
Sluroosh.
Yeah, it is. Sluroosh is the word they use when it comes out. And yeah, and Doug says and decided to come up for its meal. And it eats Brad Rangel. And he's like, no. And says Brad screamed all the way down. And so that third panel is really disturbing because I kind of don't know what's going on when I first look at it. I mean, it's just the angle is really strange, but it's obviously like coming from right above the monster. And so, yeah, it has this strange, like the mouth is almost just a black hole, like you don't see teeth or anything, but somehow that's more terrifying than if it had like a bunch of sharp teeth or was like a sarlacc pit or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's an arm that has wrapped Brad up at the waist just above his own tentacles and is stuffing it down inside its own mouth.
Yeah, that's a good description of it.
Which is horrifying.
Yeah, it is. Jesus. And so yeah, it says Brad screamed all the way down. Then the narration says, the sheet of paper had said, for only when evil devours evil will the earth tremble and devour us all. That says a section of the ceiling collapsed as the pit thing consumed Brad, and even the werewolf knew enough to split before he was consumed by the fury of evil, forced to taste itself and its crushing impact. And I actually really loved that last line. And I loved it just, everything's falling down. Just the ceilings are just crumbling. And that final panel, it's really cool. It's just colored in like blues and blacks and purples. And everything's just going fucking crazy. And the sound effects are brack, crack, and kabog. Kabog. I had not heard that one before.
Well, in the panel previous, a cult member got crushed by a falling rock, and it says bag. As his lower half is completely crushed under rock. And so the final page of this story, as you were saying, it says the fury of evil forced to taste itself and the crushing impact of a collapsing mountain. And we see the beast in this giant panel diving out of what's remaining of the cave as it completely falls in on itself. And it says, I kept telling myself that the mountain sealed that disgusting pit like a cork in a bottle, that the slimy tentacled thing which bloomed from its deepest bowels is now either dead or contained forever. How else can I assure myself of sanity? But at the time, the werewolf couldn't have cared less. And we have this great panel of the closed up cave. Clary's kind of slowly starting to regain consciousness as Buck looks over her. And in the distance, we just see the beast trucking off into the distance like, woohoo! And he looks like he's like, it's the last day of school. Am I wrong?
No, he just threw his papers into the air and he's just fucking taking off.
Fuck you, teacher. You're repeating my class again next year. You know that, right? And so we get this little moment, the beast is off doing its thing. And Buck and Clary look at each other. It says all he cared about was roaming the forest unfettered and free. So we got to have a final drink for that.
Final drink of the shot.
In the morning, I'd have a lot to discuss with Buck. And Clary's waking up. She says, Buck, what happened? And Buck says, nothing, Clary. Nothing at all. Which that's not going to hold, by the way.
No.
Like, I know Clary. She's going to be like, I know, but what happened?
No, Clary's going to want to know what's going on.
And the final panel, we see the beast roaming around through the forest with the moon behind him. And it says, it was supposed to be a story in which the good guy turned out to be a monster in the end. No wonder Brad liked it so much. But Jack Russell, he hated it. And just where did that leave the werewolf? The only answer was silence. And it seemed to emanate from the moon.
Cool last panel. And what a strange angle.
Very weird angle for that last drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been pretty effusive to this whole thing. I think that if you don't like this, then you don't like Werewolf by Night. This is like, I think this is where this should have gone. I think that it should have been a Curtis magazine. I think black and white with only Filipino artists working on it.
Oh God, wouldn't that be cool? Just Spanish and Filipino artists working on it.
Tales of the Zombie, that same approach. Adult, opaque, strange, disconcerting, episodic. I would have loved that.
Yeah, I loved it. No, I think both of us have been pretty open with how we feel about this issue. And yeah, you're right. It's just a magazine of Werewolf by Night with like, Pablo Marcos and, I would love just young Montano doing it, him and Virgil Redondo.
Yeah.
Maybe throw us an Alex Nino story every once in a while.
Again.
Oh God, it'd be perfect. This does make me want to go back and read Tales of the Zombie just because we've kind of talked around it a lot the last couple issues. And God, just that Pablo Marcos stuff is just so good. He did most of the issues, right? Like I
believe so. I haven't read it in like 10 years. I bought that Essentials.
Yeah, I have the Essentials too, packed away somewhere. I can't find it.
I think I had rubber bands around it because it was falling apart.
Yeah,
at the time. Like it was. I love it, and I did those one of those omnibus editions I have now. So I'm due for a reread because every time I see somebody post a single panel from them, I'm just like, God damn, that was the most beautiful goddamn 70s horror stuff.
It's so good. Yeah, I just love it. I absolutely loved the issue. And I do. And God, it just makes me want to see that goddamn documentary because I just think Filipino artists have such a unique style and a unique storytelling tradition. And aside from just wanting to see it myself, because I love it, I don't think they've gotten their due. I think that, I mean, even trying to, and this was a while ago, this is maybe like 10 years ago when I kind of really got into them. But I was just like, oh, well, there must be books written about this. There must be, tons of info about it. And there's really not. Like they're kind of, I mean, it's documented, of course, just like any type of comics history is.
But not given its due, like for a wider audience through an easily accessed medium.
No, it's not. And it's kind of a fascinating story. I mean, aside from just what we talked about before, like, Joe Orlando and Carmine Infantino going to the islands and taking these guys, which is kind of the romantic approach of it. But a lot of people have also stated that they kind of did this because the older artists at DC were being like, hey, we want retirements and healthcare. And they were like, pensions. Oh, yeah, pensions. Sorry, guys. And then they go and find all these Filipino artists and bring their art back. And they're like, yeah, we can pay these guys a lot less. And they're like 100 times better than you are.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. I mean, I'd be curious to, hear what people from that time had to say. And then there's the weird thing that, I think Tony DeZuniga aside, I know he at least penciled and inked a few X-Men issues. The Filipino artists rarely worked on superhero stuff. They weren't given superhero work. And I can't tell if that was a slight racist thing of the bosses being like, oh, no, we love you guys, but we're not going to let you touch the top tier books.
Right. The tentpole books. Yeah.
But also like, I think their strengths lie in these, in horror stories. And so, I can't tell. That's why I want a goddamn documentary.
Yeah.
To tell me about this stuff.
Well, you're sitting around your duff, reading comic books. You got to produce this thing. Yeah, it's interesting because, there's that documentary Machete Maidens Unleashed, which is about Roger Corman and all those filmmakers going into the Philippines and filming stuff there for, pennies on the dollar compared to what they would do in North America. So not only that, but there would be guys who'd be like, there was no unions. There was no so stuntmen would like, when you see a stunt in one of those Roger Corman, like 70s, women in prison movies or whatever, like when there's a Jeep going off a cliff and the guy jumps out into a river, like that's actually that dude doing that. Like that's like,
he might be dead.
Did it. Yeah. And he probably did it for like fucking $20. Like, it's pretty exploitative. So yeah, I mean, there's probably an element to that I'd be curious to know. And I think it's interesting, like you said, that they didn't work largely on superhero and the main titles. That's
hardly ever.
I would like to think that's by choice, but I don't think it is.
But even when they did work over at DC, it was just on the horror books or on Weird War Tales, and different things like that. Really, it's an interesting thing.
Well, I wonder if that's more the case that superheroes are really an American phenomenon, in the sense that, I mean, they're like religion to us and they're a part of our culture. And like other people have looked at our comics, they love reading them and they enjoy them. But I was just reading some quote from somebody that was, I forgot what country they were from, but they were saying like doing a Superman, doing a Batman, like that's an American thing. And we feel like we tread lightly because it's so like sacrosanct in your pop culture.
Because there are gods.
It's just something and it's just something we enjoy for entertainment. whereas you folks seem to like get really bent out of shape about them, which we do.
We do.
Clearly.
I also think, well, the Philippines had such a rich comics culture and history.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't just, try to ape the golden age copies of comics that they got, when during World War II. They had their own culture of comics that were fantasy and Western and very Filipino centric. And so I think that has a lot to do with how strong all of them are as a collective, as artists, and how unique of storytellers they are, because they'd already been doing it forever. So by the time Joe Orlando and Carmine Infantino get there, like they look around and they see a fully formed comics culture that already has, your Jack Kirby figure in Nestor Redondo. There's already different studios. There's, the Tony DeZuniga studio, the Redondo studios. Like these guys were established. They knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it a very unique way. And I think that really shows in this issue.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they're an interesting case because, it seems like it's mostly isolated. There's other Southeast Asian, artists, but the Philippines seem like a special case as far as I don't know how much the Spanish influence on the Philippines made this kind of a special mixture of things going on.
Yeah, I think the Spanish influence, obviously, there's a Spanish influence. There's an influence from the Golden Age comics that were left behind by servicemen.
Uh-huh.
Because, when the U.S. came and liberated
Occupied.
the Philippine, when they liberated the Philippine Islands, from the Japanese occupation,
right?
they were superheroes. That's how Alfredo Alcala talks about it. How it's just like, I think he mentioned that he said that if MacArthur had run for president of the Philippines that year, he would have gotten 100% of the vote.
Wow!
Like,
I need this documentary, man.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, Alcala, talking about burying the few Golden Age comics he had, so the Japanese wouldn't come and take them away. Just badass shit like that.
And those guys are dying off.
I know.
All we have is archival stuff to translate and put subtitles on.
Pretty much. I think most of them are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess that's our final thoughts. If I see a Spanish name on the artist, I assume it's a Filipino person or a Spanish person, and I expect to buckle up for a ride of great art. And I'm very rarely wrong. Is that racist?
No, I don't think so.
I think I'm racist.
Yeah. You are, of course, but
I love Filipinos.
But no, I think it's because even in an issue like this, where I know a bit about Filipino comic artists, and I saw his name, I'm like Young Montano, and it's like I have never heard of this guy, and I look in the little encyclopedia I have of the comic artists, and yeah, he got 2 inches of copy,
wow,
for his thing, but he's great,
yeah,
he's so good, and this is how good the third tier artists were in the Philippines. So yeah, they. Endlessly talented.
So 2 inches a copy. What else? How many other credits does he have?
I think it's probably
the next issue of Giant Size.
Yeah. When I looked him up on GCD, I think it's really just a page. So he has not a lot. He must have worked more in the Philippines.
Right. Just stuff that hasn't been translated for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Again, I just felt like I'm glad that we decided to do this because I can see why you said let's just kind of summarize story 2 because Brad didn't dig story 1 and it's a very long issue, but it didn't sit right with me because I ultimately liked this story way more than the first one. So
no, you're right, and I liked the story the first time I read it, but I was trying to figure out, okay, with Brad on the episodes, we normally go a little long because we love talking with him. I'm like, there's no way we're going to fit this in.
Yeah. And
so I'm like, okay, let's just summarize it. And at first you were like, okay, that sounds good. And then you message back 5 hours later and you're like, you know what? No. You're like, this would really upset me if we gave short shrift to any full story of Werewolf by Night because we're being pretty comprehensive in what we're going through. And my first instinct is I was just like, oh, God damn it. All right. But then I went back and reread it and I'm like, oh, of course you're right. Because this is this of all stories, I would not want to just give a summary of.
No. So far, I think if I had to give short shrift to anything, it would be that tiger story. Like if that would be the one that I would be happy with, like 5 minutes of, then this happens, and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So I'm glad we did this.
Me too.
And we have some other stuff to talk about. All right, for Werewolf Multimedia, Jacob and I have continued the Paul Naschy Spanish Wolfman series. So for this one, we watched the fourth one, which is actually the third one, because one is missing or was never actually made. So this one was called La Furia del Hombre Lobo, which is the Fury of the Wolfman, and it was released under that title to American TV stations. So this aired on TV before it aired theatrically, I think in Europe. I forgot the backstory because it does not deserve any fucking research. But there is a cut of this that is uncensored, which has 2 very modest sex scenes with including breasts. But we saw that version. It looked like shit. It was like an open matte cut, and it had burned in Greek, or I don't know what it was, Swedish subtitles. I forgot because I don't care. But it was called The Wolfman Never Sleeps. So the one with the boobs is called The Wolfman Never Sleeps. Everybody else, you can watch The Fury of the Wolfman. It's easily found. You can rent it for $3 on Prime, or you can watch it for free on Dailymotion or YouTube or whatever. It's not hard to find at all.
It's not hard to find, and please don't spend any money.
Please don't.
Yeah.
However, I will say I did feel like giving this a second pass while I was kind of working. So I had some light work to do today. So I put it up in the corner of my screen, and the Fury of the Wolfman file on Dailymotion looks and sounds much better than the one we saw.
Okay.
So I could understand the dialogue a lot more, and it was not as pixelated and grainy. It has that going for it, but I'm going to hand this off to you. This is go.
Oh, it's so bad. So it was written by Paul Naschy, but it was directed by Jose Maria Zabalza, who is known as the Spanish Ed Wood. And that is generous.
Yes. Naschy, I did do a little research. Naschy said that he was visibly drunk for most of the stuff on set, and he hated him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you read the same, and there's just a few reviews of this online, but the one that I was reading was saying that, I mean, aside from the fact that this director obviously, was so drunk they didn't get enough shots. This movie is padded with shots from Mark of the Werewolf, from the very first one.
The best parts of the film are the stuff kyped from the first movie.
So I read in one review that, the director was blind drunk most of the time. So much to the extent that he had his 14-year-old son on set to take over for him when he blacked out. Yep. And it shows. Like, I think this review even said that, like, this kid, like, his dad would basically pass out drunk, and this kid was like, "Oh, I don't like this line. We should rewrite."
He was rewriting dialogue that Naschy wrote for Naschy. 14. Oh. He couldn't drive a car with an adult in it yet, and he's rewriting the writer's line.
I feel like poor Paul Naschy, like, I almost think like he can't catch a break from after making Mark of the Werewolf, which both you and I loved.
Yep.
And then, Assignment Terror, the last one we watched, was terrible. And Paul Naschy is the only credited writer on a lot of these movies. And I can't imagine how he still kept his exuberance for making these films and keep wanting to keep making them, because they just get so bad. I mean, I've read that the one after this is pretty good, but I can't imagine.
Is that the Walpurgis one?
Yeah, the Walpurgis one.
That is the most financially successful of all of them, I believe.
Okay. But like you and I were talking about, we really shouldn't talk about this all that long. So it's the same character. It's Waldemar Daninsky.
And yet not.
And yet totally not, because he basically gains his lycanthropy from, he was on a mountaineering trip to Tibet and was attacked by a Yeti. His whole crew was murdered.
Yeah.
And
that's in the brochure. Like, that's not, he can't sue.
No, he can't. But okay, so he's Waldemar Daninsky, but he's a professor now for some reason. And he learns his wife is cheating on him. So he finds her, kind of wolfs out, kills her and her lover, then runs away, gets electrocuted in a storm and dies. And then so he has this old lab partner / lover who realizes that werewolves can be resurrected, and then kind of digs him up to help with her plan of world domination. I think
what was the term that she kept using for controlling minds? Is it neurotrodes, chemitrodes?
I think it was chemitrodes is what she was talking about. Yeah, I know. Oh God,
insufferable film.
It was, and
it was
and
terribly dubbed. First of all, so I mean, it's like it sounds like people are like masturbating and reading a magazine while they're like reading their lines. Like it's like they're so detached and like just off and. Ugh. I
honestly think this is the worst movie I've ever seen. Yeah. Like it's right up there. And it's in the way, and I'm offended that this director was called the Spanish Ed Wood, because there's no, there's no earnest passion that you can see in his filmmaking. He's just a fucking drunk asshole.
Yeah.
That obviously wanted a paycheck that he had already drank away before he even finished the movie. And so, yeah, this is a movie directed by a guy who obviously hates himself.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't give two shits about filmmaking, about Paul Naschy's script. It's just, yeah, I mean, and for a movie that's supposed to have, like basement mutant orgies, like he can't even get sexiness right.
So that was I watched this sober, so there's no excuse for me not following the plot, but like she's definitely doing mind control stuff with people with these chemtrodes, chemchodes. And there's like this, it appears to be a local hippie youth hanging out in the basement having lascivious lewd parties. They were being mind controlled.
Yeah, but I also thought that like half of the people down in the basement were like rejected experiments.
They were, some were.
Yeah.
Because there was a short person, a little person.
Well, just like the, what was the Werewolf by Night story early on? Even the Marvel shit. What was that one? They had the guy who was experimenting on stuff. Strug.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was kind of like that. But it's just, no, I don't think this movie is easy to follow sober, high. Like, I don't think it's easy to follow because there's nothing to follow.
Yeah, it's notoriously poorly written and hard to follow. Even like, I guess in its native language, it doesn't make much sense because it was so hacked and slashed together.
And all but one of the transformations of Naschy, which I think are sometimes the best parts of his films, the transformations in these were static dissolves.
Yeah.
Which we really hadn't seen a ton of. Like there was some of that in the previous films, but most of it is Naschy just, in pain, thrashing around a room and tearing his shirt. And like, that's his deal. He should get to do that.
Yeah.
But no, so this movie was the worst.
It was pretty bad.
Should we, should we watch the Walpurgis one next week or should we take a break? We had a recommendation of a movie, right? From someone.
Right. So there's 12 of these Naschy films. I don't know how many episodes we have left. Like we can take a break. Do you need a break?
I need one break. Just let's take a week where we don't watch one and we'll come back and we'll finish them all. Don't worry. We will finish them all.
Okay. So yeah, I'm sure people out there are hanging by the fingernails here trying to figure out how this turns out. Right. So we got some mail and some recommendations. And I wanted to ask you like how much you know these. Did you see the whole email?
Yeah, I did. I had heard of the Vertigo book before, but I looked it up and I don't think I'd read it.
So Mark Nivens wrote us, thank you, Mark, and has some recommendations like we've asked for. So he said, hey, have you guys checked out IDW's Moonshine by Brian Azzarello? Which I had not. I had seen the cover to the first trade, and it looked like people in the 20s with like trench coats on, like walking in the moonlight. So I was like, oh, it's like just a moonshine thing. But it's got werewolves apparently.
Yeah, so, I like Brian Azzarello. I'm totally in.
I like him sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you like him all the time? Like I feel like I'm really hitting. Like I either love him or I'm totally cold to his stuff. Like I don't have a middle ground with him much.
I'm not a super fan, but stuff that I've picked up before
Okay.
I've liked.
Okay. So this is like Boardwalk Empire, but with werewolves.
I'll check that out.
So we'll check that out. He also asked if we'd read Jughead the Hunger, and I have read it and I loved it. I posted some stuff online, but he doesn't use social media, so he didn't know that. But I'm a huge fan of Jughead the Hunger. It's gorgeous art, which I shared some of on the feed, in the feed. Highly recommend it. All the Archie horror stuff is so good, in my opinion. Vampironica, I love it. What's the other thing you recommended? The other comic? The Vertigo one?
Vertigo 2 Moons or
Wolf Moon.
Wolf Moon, yeah.
So I'd never heard of that.
I had heard of it, but I'd never read it. Yeah, Cullen Bunn, we love.
I love him. I love Cullen Bunn. So I'll read that in a fucking heartbeat. I'm totally down with reading that. So I'll check that out for sure. But the film he recommended is a film that, as you might know, I'm a fan of bad films. And I did a show that Jacob was on many, many times called That's Cool, That's Trash, where we talked about and celebrated bad movies. I saw Bad Moon from 1996 in the theaters, and I think I almost walked out, but I didn't. But I was really not into it. It had Margot Hemingway. I'm forgetting who else is in it, but he said it had a really good Blu-ray restoration release lately, so maybe I was just not in the mood, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, let's revisit it.
So it's on Tubi for free. So if you don't mind watching some ads here and there, you can watch Bad Moon with us. Let's do that for next week.
Cool. I'm in.
Okay. So we'll take a break from bad Spanish werewolf movies and watch Bad Moon. It's an interesting setup for sure. I remember it vividly. I hope I like it more the second time.
So yeah, I want to thank Mark for his recommendations. We love them, and we always want to know what we should be reading and watching, werewolf related or not. And we just love to hear from you about how we're doing, about anything really. And we have a email you can reach us at, which is werewolfbynightpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, if you, we're always looking for reviews. So if you are on a podcast service that does reviews, it's weird. Spotify does not do reviews yet.
No.
I don't know.
Neither does Libsyn, which is how some people who have reached out to me listen to the show, but you can't review the show.
Well, if you are on a podcast platform or listen to the show in a way that you can't review it, send us an email. Tell us that you're listening and that you like the show, and I will send you some buttons. I have a bunch of buttons that I've made from issues of actual Werewolf by Night from the 70s, and we'll send you some buttons just as a thank you, because we know we have a lot of listeners out there that, don't necessarily listen on the Apple Podcast platform. But if you do, if you would leave us a review on there, you can take a screenshot of it, email it to us. I'll send you some buttons as well. But, we're winding up our run. I think we have maybe 15 episodes left.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
15, 16, yeah.
So, now's the time to reach out and let us know what you've thought of this this whole run that we've done.
Yeah. Debate me, coward. It's always an evergreen insult to just throw out.
It is.
So next week, we'll be talking about the final giant-sized werewolf, number 5, which is an extra long tale about Pangloss. And I kind of remember it, and not in a positive way. Yeah,
I did a little... I just kept being confused, and I'm sure I'll bring it up next. We'll just talk about it next week.
Yeah. We'll talk about it then. Till we meet again beneath the full moon, furry ones. Here's how and at ya.